I'm with Brother Peter Bray at Bethlehem University, and you're celebrating 50 years this year. Are you going to be doing anything special for this event?
Yes, we are actually having a year-long celebration. We started in October 2022, and through the course of this year we're doing a variety of things leading up to a 3-day event, 30th of September through to the 3rd of October, as a way of highlighting the 50 years that we've been around.
And how was Bethlehem University started?
Well, it started back in 1973, but it emerged out of the visit of Pope Paul VI to the Holy Land in 1964, when he said he wanted to do something for the Palestinian people. But it wasn't until Archbishop Piolagi, who was the Pope's representative here in Jerusalem in 1971, began looking at the fact that nothing had been done since 64. And then he gathered a group of people, and eventually, out of a whole range of options, it was decided to start a university. And one of the main reasons for this was that there was no registered university in Palestine, and anybody wanting a tertiary education either went down to the Gulf, to Europe, Britain or the United States as straight after secondary school, and became involved in those countries and never came back. So one of the reasons for starting the university was as a way of helping young people get an education and stay here in Palestine.
So there was a really big need for the university at that time?
Oh, yes, very much so. And that's the response to that need was what drove the start of the university.
So you started in 1973. How many students enrolled in 1973, and how many do you have today?
There were 112 walked onto the campus on the 1st of October 1973 to start the university, and we now have 3,200 students.
So it's become very, very successful.
Well, yes, we have over 20,000 graduates now from Bethlehem University over those 50 years.
Wow. So is Bethlehem the first registered university in Palestine, and were you pioneering education here in the time?
We're the first registered university, and I make that point very clearly because Bezait was a college, a 2-year college, and then people went from there to American University in Beirut to finish. But we were the first registered, and then soon after we registered, Bezait registered as well. But there's a dispute to some extent over who was the first. Yeah. But they existed before we did, but we were the first to be registered as a university.
Was it a great step of faith to open a university here?
I think so, and in October 1973, of course, was during the Yom Kippur War. So, to start a university at that time was a step out in faith, and I think in many ways the whole existence of Bethlehem University has been a faith journey.
So was the political situation very unstable here in the land at the time in 1973?
I'm not absolutely sure on that, but I think given that the war started then, I presume it was. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that though.
What languages do you teach here?
Well, our course is taught in Arabic and English. I'd say possibly half and half. There are some subjects like nursing and business and science are all taught in English. But other languages that we teach French and Italian and German.
Yeah. I think I was getting the point across that you actually teach here in English, don't you?
Yes, and Arabic. And we try to ensure that students graduate from here with a reasonable grasp on English, because what opens up to them then is so much more than if they're restricted to Arabic. Yeah.
Has education changed over the last 50 years?
I would say so. I think that what's becoming a real pressure on us now is that employers are asking for specific skills, that, a general education is not enough now. There are specific skills that they're asking for that are going to be useful in their businesses. And I think we've got to be careful about becoming a skills-based training institution. We're a university, which is much broader than that, and what we're looking for is to educate, to provide quality higher education. And by that I mean education that's going to broaden people's perspective and give them the skills, I suppose, to be able to deal with whatever comes up, and particularly teaching them how to learn, because I'm very wary of just becoming a skills-based institution, because the skills they'll learn now in 5-10 years will be useless. If you don't teach them how to learn their skills, then they're not going to be able to learn later on.
Have you got students that have gone on to do great things?
Yes, we've got students in a variety of places. We've had a number of people who have gone to be ministers in the Palestinian Authority. We have one graduate from our Institute of Hotel Management and Tourism who at one stage was responsible for all of the Millennium hotels in the Middle East. He's left that now and started up his own business. We had one guy who was in charge of Microsoft's international distribution. Unfortunately, he contracted cancer and died a few years back. Now, he was on our foundation board in the United States. But what I'm concerned about, or not concerned about, what I'm aware of is that many of our students go on to be really very, very good parents. And, 78% of our students are women. And so the influence that we are having through those women in the way in which they bring up their children, I think is a very, very important thing. So while we have some, and we're proud of those who have done well internationally or within Palestine, I think, what the ordinary people have done, I think is really important as well.
Is that quite unique to have that many women here at the college?
Well, I think all of the universities in Palestine have more women than men, but we have the biggest percentage of women at 78%.
Where do your students come from? Is it all over Palestine?
No, I think if you have a look at the restrictions on movement, makes that very, very difficult. We have some students coming from Ramallah, but they have to come through 2 checkpoints to get here, and it makes it impossible. So half of our students come from East Jerusalem, and the rest mainly from Bethlehem, a few from Hebron, and the villages around here.
How important is Christianity to the university?
Well, we're unashamedly a Catholic Christian university, and make no apology for that at all. And I'm often asked, what is an unashamedly Catholic university doing in a country where there's less than 1% Christian, so few Christians? And my response to that is that if you go back 2,000 years to when Jesus started his ministry here, he had no Christians here at all then. So what was he doing? And I think, if you go to St. John's Gospel, chapter 10, verse 10, it's very clear, I have come that they may have life in all its fullness. That's what Jesus was doing. That's exactly what Bethlehem University is doing. What we are seeking to do is, in this place here, to create an environment, develop an atmosphere, and provide an opportunity for our students to gain the skills, acquire the knowledge, and then develop those attitudes and virtues that's going to enable them to live life as full as they can, despite the occupation, despite the restrictions that they're under. And in doing that, or in enabling us to do that, what we are seeking to do is to create here a little oasis of peace in the midst of all of the stuff that's going on, so that they experience their time here as being in a place that's safe for them, where people are really looking out for them. And, I'm a De La Salle Christian brother, and Jean-Baptiste de La Salle placed a huge emphasis on the relationship that existed between the student and the teacher. And so I keep talking about here to the adults, the faculty and staff, about the importance of us being brothers and sisters to one another, and then older brothers and sisters to the young people entrusted to us. And that comes straight out of Jean-Baptiste de La Salle's.
Do the students notice the peace here on the campus?
Well, in talking to our students and in talking particularly to our graduates, so many of them mention what a peaceful, their memory is of it being a peaceful place and a place where they felt safe.
Is this a place where you welcome all faiths and no faiths to the college?
Yeah. We make no distinction on that basis. We have about 20% of our students are Christian, so 80% are Muslim. And I would like some Jews here, but they're not allowed to come because the Israeli law is that Israeli citizens are not allowed to come into Palestine, so we can't have. So the Christians and Muslims are here. And I think one of our significant contributions to Palestine is the opportunity we provide for Christians and Muslims to come together for over 4 years, And, with 20% of our students Christian, that it's a significant number. So they're not isolated little Christians in a sea of Muslim students. But the other side of that is, with that number of Christians here, it's impossible for our Muslim students to be here and not engage with Christians. There are too many of them. And for many, particularly our students from Hebron and down in those villages in that area, have never met a Christian till they come to Bethlehem University. Wow. And we have some wonderful stories about the experience of some of them. There's one guy who graduated 4 or 5 years back now. When he left, when he was coming to the end of his secondary school, he desperately wanted to get into our Faculty of Business because it's one of the best in Palestine. But it was at a Christian university, and he talks about going back and forth. He had heard all of these strange things about Christians. Anyhow, business won out, and he laughs about the fact that after he'd been on campus for a couple of weeks, in class with Christians, on the campus with Christians, in the cafeteria with Christians, he came to this realization, they're just like me, and so it was a great revelation for him. And he talks about the fact that he doesn't know anywhere else in Palestine where Christians and Muslims can come together like that. And I've met him several times since he graduated. And at one stage, I thought he was going to say, as a result of being here, he'd come to understand Christians better, but he didn't. What he said was, as a result of his time here at Bethlehem University, he came to appreciate Christians. And I think the nuances there is quite different. And he talks about now about the fact that being Palestinian is being engaged with Christians and Muslims. It's part of the, and that's why I have this wonderful video clip of an interview I did with a young Muslim girl quite some years back now, where she talks in very, very strong terms about the disaster it is that the number of Christians has declined. Because she said it's part of being Palestinian. And when I've shown this in the United States or Australia, New Zealand or in England, she's got the hijab, she's obviously a Muslim girl and speaking so positively and passionately about the need for Christians to be here. People are shocked at that, but that's what it has emerged from Bethlehem University, that awareness.
Do they both get to share their faith with each other?
Well, we have a program which every student here has to take. It's one of our requirements, where together, in secondary schools, generally the Muslims go off and study the Quran and the Christians go off and study religious studies or Bible or whatever. But here we have them together, and they look at Christianity and they look at Islam. And we have a Palestinian Arab, a Muslim, talking about Islam, and a Palestinian Christian talking about Christianity. And they do that together, and so many times it's been reported to me that students have said, I didn't realise that's what Christians believe, or I didn't realise that's what Muslims believe. So I think that is a very, very positive aspect of what we're offering here.
Is the college helping local people to stay here in the land?
Well, we think we are. I think the unemployment is a major issue, of course, but depending on the faculty that they're in, like virtually all of our nursing students have jobs very soon after they graduate. Most of our business people, some areas still struggle, and I think there are people who get an education here and then leave Palestine, because I know one guy whose house was demolished twice by the Israeli military, and he just wanted to get out of here, and I can understand that. But our aim is to help students to get an education and then, if possible, to stay here. And one of the things we are doing here is we've created several years back now a Bethlehem Business Incubator. So what we're trying to do is to help students, or not only students, young people here in Bethlehem, have a look at their society here and see what the needs are, and then figure out, is there a way that we can create some business or some employment for ourselves that's going to meet those needs? And we've been very successful in that so far.
You're from New Zealand. Why did you come here?
Well, it's a sort of complicated story. My predecessor, Brother Dan Casey, was appointed here in 2006, and then unfortunately at the beginning of 2007 he was diagnosed with cancer, and right through 2007 he had treatment here at Hadassah Hospital. And then at the beginning of 2008, he went back to New York, where he was from, to get treatment on the understanding he'd come back. But when he got back there, they found it was terminal, and he died back there. Now, the Vice-Chancellor here is appointed by the Superior General of the Brothers. So the Superior of the General of the Brothers, Brother Alvaro, was then confronted with finding a new Vice-Chancellor. So I've just parked that. I did my doctorate in leadership at the University of San Diego, and then I was invited to teach in a summer program from 1998. It was a 3-year program. I taught the 3rd year of it in 3 universities in the United States. At one time, I can't remember, I think it was 2002, 3 or 4, early in the 2000s anyhow, Brother Robert Sheila was responsible for organising the arrangements for that. And then he sat in on my workshops around leadership in La Sallian schools. Anyhow, time passed and he was elected into the General Council. So in 2008, when Brother Alvaro was talking to the council about finding a new Vice-Chancellor for here, Brother Robert had this crazy idea that because I could talk about leadership, I might be able to do something. And so in May 2008, I was invited to come here. And at that stage, I was director of the Catholic Education Centre in Wellington in New Zealand. I'd been there for 11 years. And I can remember thinking after I'd been there 10 years, I've probably got another 14 or 15 good working years left in me. Do I want to spend it at the Catholic Education Centre? And while I wasn't looking for anything or for something, I suppose I was open, and this came out of left field, I'd have to say, and it just seemed like a good idea at the time. And for me, it's been by far the most difficult job I've ever had in terms of the complexity of the situation we're in, the unpredictability of things, and it's just been incredibly difficult. But at the same time, I've never been in a place where it is so obvious that what we're doing is worthwhile. When I see little secondary school kids come in and then watch them grow into some amazing young people, like this trip I've just come back from in New Zealand and Australia, where I took clips of interviews I'd done with students. Every time I listen to them talking about their lives and what they've done and what Bethlehem University has done for them, it really gets to me. So, I'm just really conscious of what Bethlehem University has been able to do. And I suppose what wells up within me when I see that and listen to those students is just an extreme sense of gratitude that I've had the opportunity to be here with these young people and be engaged with their lives and have the chance to do something in my position here as Vice-Chancellor, to do something to improve the quality of what they've been able to do. I just consider myself extremely blessed to be here and incredibly grateful that I'm so blessed.
Has Bethlehem University really been empowering students over the 50 years to achieve their dreams?
I think Bethlehem University has engaged students in a way that's enabled them to move beyond some very restrictive attitudes and prejudices. And, there's one of the clips that I've used time and time again where a young woman from Hebron talks about how when she came here she was so closed and so limited and so restricted in her thinking. And now she had been turned into a living conscience and wanted to do all she could to help improve this world. And, I just think it's a wonderful testament to what is a common experience for students here.
What's your prayer for the future of the college?
Well, I hope that we can continue to find ways of improving the quality of what we are doing. I'm not overly concerned or wanting to increase the number of students that we have here. What I see as important is to ensure that what we offer here is the best that we can possibly do, so that students can acquire the skills and gain the knowledge and then develop those attitudes and virtues and qualities, I suppose, that's going to enable them to live life as fully as they can.
Okay, Brother Peter, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.